Hello, and welcome to another episode of PPC Town Hall. My name is Fred Valles. I'm your host today, and I'm also one of the co-founders at Optmyzr. So today we're going to talk about conversion rate optimization, and we have two world-class experts on the topic to join us and talk about this. But why do we talk about CRO? Well, this is a PPC show, and obviously if we're going to be spending all this money on PPC, and we're going to be spending time picking the right keywords and paying a lot of money to get the clicks, no matter how much we optimize for that stuff, if we're not making sure that once people come to the landing page, to the website, that we're actually converting them, then that's all wasted money. So this is basically the other half of PPC that simply cannot be ignored if we want to drive the biggest bang for our buck. So that's why we decided to do an episode on CRO. We'll introduce our two guests here in a minute, but I'm really excited about this one. So let's get started with it. All right, welcome to my guests. We have Andrea Cruz and Tim Ash. How are both of you doing? Andrea, how's it going?
I'm doing great. I was having this fabulous conversation with you two before the show went live, so I'm very excited about everything that's happening today.
Andrea's giving away the secrets here. We do a little warm-up, so we all get to, we're lively and ready for the show. We drink some coffee together. But yeah, you're joining us from Boston, right? And one thing we love to do, by the way, is everyone watching, tell us hello in the comments on YouTube. Say where you're calling in from. We'll say hello back to you. And it's also a great place to ask us questions so that we can steer the conversation in the direction that's most useful for you. Andrea, who do you work for?
I work for KoMarketing. We're a B2B digital marketing agency. So if you have any B2B questions, I'm here for them.
Nice. Well, thank you for joining us. And then Tim Ash, no stranger in the to the industry. How long have you been doing PPC and CRO, Tim?
Probably since Andrea was born. No, I'm just kidding. I'm an old guy. As you know, I've written a couple of books on landing page optimization. Used to run what was called the Conversion Conference in Europe and the US, and ran my former agency SiteTuners, which was focused on CRO mostly for mid-size and large companies.
Nice. And I remember first meeting you, Tim, when you came to the Google offices and you were helping some of our bigger customers get their landing pages in order, right? Because like I said, they were spending so much time on PPC buying these clicks, and then they were like, wait, we have to have a good landing page.
What a concept. Crazy talk, right?
Exactly. And then Andrea, you and I think we met in Austin at HeroConf, one of the great conferences that's out there.
Yeah, the wonderful Julie Bacchini introduced us. So Julie,
yes.
We love you.
Yes, we do. PPC chat on Twitter. Check it out if you haven't. Okay, and thanks everyone for chiming in here and telling us where you're calling in from. All right, so the other thing that's kind of interesting here, none of us were born in the United States. And Tim, I just found this out about you, but tell us where you were born.
I was born in Moscow in the USSR before it fell apart and the evil empire became 15 different countries. So
wait, Tim Ash, that does not sound Russian. Did you adopt a stage name?
Stage name. Well, try my real name. Try saying this out loud on the first pass. Timur Alexandrovich Astashkevich.
Timur Alexandrovich. And then I forgot.
Yeah, that's about as far as most people get. You did really well, but that's I saved myself and everyone I met a lot of time by shortening my name to Tim Ash.
Nice. Andrea, you want to take a crack at his name?
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna do that. But I'll tell you my full name because as you said, we are international today. So I was born and raised in Venezuela. So my full name is Andrea Eloisa Cruz López.
Andrea Eloisa Cruz López.
There you go. See, mine is a bit easier.
Well, it's easy because in Russian, all the sounds in Spanish are phonetically a subset of Russian, so I can do the rolled R's and nasal N's, so it's easier for me.
Yep.
Nice. And then I was born in probably the most boring of the three countries, Belgium. It is always the butt of jokes in movies because it's like one of these countries that you can offend and it's so small, like we're not going to mess with you. But yes, my full name, Frederick Robert Christian Valles, 2 middle names. Anyway, we're here to talk about CRO. So the first topic that I thought we can sort of get into is when would you use a dedicated landing page for your PPC campaigns, and when would you just take your website in general? Like, what's really the benefit of a dedicated landing page? Either one of you can take it. I'm not going to be calling people here unless they're silent, then I will call them here.
Yeah, Andrea, go ahead.
Sure. This is a question that often comes up, and I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. In my particular case, I like to test both the site, especially if it is a new client or something that we've never run pain, and see how people move across the website. But look, guys, I think that PPC landing page has also evolved through time. The original PPC landing page used to be the form, a small text, bullets, and that's it. That was it. That was the traditional PPC landing page. And what we are seeing today, as people become more savvy in the way they search online, is they need a little bit more. Sometimes with Google becoming broader, we really don't know where people exactly are in the funnel. So giving people options, you might not be ready for a demo. You might not be ready for a contact us. So what else can I give you that you have at least a micro interaction with me that I know might help you come back, or that I can retarget you afterwards? So those are my original thoughts. I'm going to leave it there to see what you guys think.
Well, from my perspective, I've always had a broad definition of what a landing page is. And to me, it's anywhere where significant traffic is landing on your site on the way to important economic goals. So it could be your homepage if you're an e-commerce site and you have primarily a shopping feed as your main point of entry. It might be your product detail template for your product detail pages, or it could be a dedicated, for a paid campaign, direct response type of landing page like you were describing, Andrea. But to me, those are all landing pages. The question of when to use a carefully designed specific one, to me, is always, unless you don't have the resources or the technical knowledge. If you're paying for the traffic, why would you just send it to your regular site? I mean, if you can make even a couple of tweaks to your existing pages to make them better, you should. You're paying money to get people there. So the answer is always if you have the resources. That's how I look at it.
So then I guess the question is, how do you prioritize which pages you're going to put the resources against? And then it's also a question, like at bigger companies, it's just very difficult oftentimes to change. I mean, you're not going to change the homepage for a PPC campaign. So by default, you then kind of have to go into using a landing page tool.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of landing pages is you can, if you're using another tool, you can just do it on the side. But there's nothing saying you can't duplicate your homepage, make a couple of tweaks to it in a landing page tool and send PPC homepage traffic to that either. So that's the beauty of having a
right, so it doesn't have to be a massive effort, is what you're saying. You don't have to design from scratch. You basically take, and so what would be some of those small tweaks that have led to millions of dollars in uplift? I'm sure you got a few of those.
Andrea, you want to take that one?
Well, before we even go there, if you do have a very small budget, Google Optmyzr is a great resource just to make tweaks, test a few different things, different messaging, and you can just set it up to your paid traffic. You can even filter by specific campaigns, specific keywords, specific ad groups. So if you are in that bucket of very limited budget, that's a free tool that you can use right there. It's not perfect. You cannot create a zillion experiments, but it's something you can get started with and then determine if you might need something bigger or more robust.
So Google Optmyzr, is that what you would use to do this ABC split testing that Tammy's talking about?
Yeah, for sure. You can do multiple variations of A/B testing with Google Optmyzr, and you can even determine how much weight you want to give to each specific variation. And it connects back to your Google Analytics. Pretty easy tool to use.
Yeah, I don't know if it's changed, but one thing to be careful there is they want to do everything algorithmically, which means you don't get an even split of traffic across the different versions. So you have to be careful to set it manually to be just a fixed, proportionate amount of traffic to each page. Otherwise, it's going to optimize you into some weird direction where 90% of your traffic is going to one page, and then you never hit statistical significance.
Yeah. If you have a small site, it might give you issues with that, but they do allow you to assign weights now. But it still tries to optimize towards your primary goal, whatever you might set that up to be.
Yeah, and I personally have a problem with that with Google in general, which is like, yeah, just trust us. You don't need any knobs to turn. Give us your money and we'll spend it for you. Not a problem. Yeah.
Well, at least they're nice now. It's no longer just about optimize for clicks, but at least they can optimize for conversions, which
that's true.
I was on the team when we were asking for that, and it, I think, took over a decade to add that functionality.
That one feature, yeah. Well, and also note that Google no longer says "do no evil" is their motto. Have you noticed that?
That's a whole different PPC Town Hall session. So you brought up an interesting point, right? So in split testing, you want to set the actual distribution yourself as opposed to letting Google handle it. But Andrea, you also talked about how there's a lot of uncertainty now because with keywords no longer being exact match, with the ads themselves being RSAs, and so you don't really know exactly what text was shown in the ad. Like, how much uncertainty is there that goes to the landing page, and how statistically significant is your, say, 30-30-30 split test? How much is it based on the landing page versus some other factor of who came into that landing page?
Well, I think one of the biggest issues we have in the PPC industry is that we focus too much on the keyword. And it's like, oh, I am bidding on marketing automation software, and I want to have it everywhere, in the ad, in the landing page, everywhere, but we are not really communicating the message. I don't know how many pages we've been to, and I'm sure you've experienced this as well. You go to a page, it doesn't say anything. It just says, we're going to increase your revenue by 3,000%. There's no how, there's no why. It only says we're a marketing automation platform, and that's it. So definitely, it all comes down. I am a big fan of ignoring quality score. I am a bigger fan of providing actual information on the landing page, and sure, include your keywords here and there, but focus on the messaging. What are you telling the person? People don't have time. If they're watching on their phone, they will barely glance at your page. So how can we give proper information to the user?
And so my question there is, okay, so we promised 3,000% improvement in whatever. Okay, so hey, that's interesting. Like, I want to know more, but you don't give them more, right? So, and now we're talking about the human brain, and Tim, I want to get your opinion on this. Like, what is the right level of data to give them? Because the more you start explaining, I think people, first of all, do tend to be lazy. Like, do they really want to read the full explanation, or is it like, hey, yeah, sure, I'll hire you, do the 3,000% thing for me?
Well, I think you have to make the distinction between buying a box of Tic Tacs at 7-Eleven or versus making a huge decision about changing your software or your business. So the risk is going to determine the amount of diligence that you do. And certainly a B2B sale, you're still trying to influence the human mind, and that hasn't changed. But there's two levels of risk. There's personal risk and corporate risk. So if it's a big decision, there's going to be a lot more risk mitigation, requests for proposal, demos, all kinds of steps to make sure that the company doesn't make a mistake when buying your product or service. So the thing to do in a business-to-business setting is to have role-based subsites or pages. So, oh, you're the CFO, you want to know about the life cycle cost of running the software. You're the end user, you want to know the features of it and see the demo. You're the administrator that's going to administer the software. Well, you want to know about how to manage users easily, that sort of thing. So you really have to have role-based pages for B2B.
That makes total sense. And Andrea, maybe from like a tactical perspective, say that you have these role-based pages, how would you get people to the right page?
Oh, that's the fun part about life, right? And Google being less exact, and now with people on Flock, it's gonna be fun, but it's difficult, right? A lot of it comes down with experience. I am personally very into search term reports for them and try to analyze where they are and try to come back to getting micro conversions, bringing them back. In which market audiences are they in? Are there any affinity audience that make me put them in the right place at the right time? When do I expect them to take the next action so I can remarket them back? So it goes a little bit of everywhere.
Right. So I would add to that there's nothing wrong with your landing page being a role-based self-selector. I'm either the CFO or I'm the end user or I'm the IT manager who's managing it. So that way you're actually getting market research when they go to that page. That first click tells you the distribution of people that your ads are driving. So you go, okay, if this skews too heavily in the wrong direction, we need to do something different with audience targeting. And then within each role, you have to go through the complete customer journey. So like Andrea was saying, early stage, I'm not even educated about the problem, versus mid stage, I'm considering different alternatives. And it's only at the end where I actually have that direct response, call me or schedule a demo or something like that. So role-based first, and then within each one, the complete customer journey.
Right. So layer those two together nicely.
Hey, Fred, the other thing, just adding to Tim's point, the other thing that has been very helpful when you need to collect a lot of information is those progressive forms. So if you use Hotspot or Marketo, they all allow you to do it. And it's a very easy way to get a first insight into who they are. And then when they come back, you get another piece and it keeps going.
Yeah, I think progressive disclosure is definitely the way to go if you need to collect information, but there's a cautionary note about collecting information at all. I look at it as an inverted kind of upside down U shape. At the beginning, don't ask for any information because you haven't established a relationship. At the end, when they're ready to transact, get out of their way and don't ask for any information. It's in the middle that you have the right to ask for information. So at the beginning, I say start with a gift. They should have access to a downloadable white paper or watch a free video or some other thing that doesn't even require their email or any information at all. Give to get. Reciprocity is a very powerful evolutionary psychology principle. By giving someone a gift, you're actually obligating them to give you something of greater or equal value back. That's a really key point that most marketers misunderstand.
It's the primal brain, right? That's what your book is about. Like,
yeah.
But and the funny thing is, like, you're not explicitly asking them to give you something, but I think if you have a self-selector page, at the very least, now they've actually told you what bucket they fall in, and you can now put them on an audience list, so you can start remarketing towards them.
Absolutely. The retargeting based on that role-based self-selection is critical. But another good way to do retargeting is how deep did they go into your experience? So for an e-commerce company, it's not so much that you're looking at high value products that have high margin for the company, but rather that you went all the way through from homepage to category page to product detail and to the cart. I want to retarget the people that abandon the cart because they went so deep in the experience.
Right. Question here, and I don't think this is what you just answered, but so for lead gen landing pages, conversion will degrade as you ask for more and more information and more sensitive information. Any tips or tricks for maintaining those conversion rates as you ask for that next level that the consumer, the prospect, may not be that comfortable giving?
Yeah, well, in my book, I talk about the form field test on whether you should have a form on your page at all, or what fields should be on it. And that's a two-parter. Is the information absolutely necessary to complete the current transaction? And if you can't answer yes to both parts of that field should not be on your form. We have to have discipline around that. And most of us are just like getting all this nice to have information that we're not going to do anything with anyway.
Right. Yeah, we ask for phone number and then we never call anyone.
Right. Or I don't want you to call me anyway.
Here is a great question. You've been asking great questions, so thank you. But do you think a landing page for a remarketing campaign can be shorter? Obviously, the idea being that remarketing, they've interacted with you before, so there's less you need to tell. And maybe Tim, that's to your point, like remarketing. Hey, they're finally ready to make the deal here, so let's get out of the way. How do we keep it short and sweet?
Definitely, they've had more exposure to your brand. They came to your site in the first place. They've been exposed to your retargeting ads subsequently. So, yeah, there's a higher propensity to buy. But I don't know that necessarily means shorter content. They might need longer content in order to make the buying decision. So it depends on your company.
Yeah, even social proof. Going back to the example of the car abandonment, those pesky emails that you sometimes get, that they say there's only 2 left, and you cannot find it, the discount ends tonight. What can you push to make that final conversion if they are down the funnel? You don't need to tell them more than that, most likely.
Yeah, I mean, if you have some kind of abandonment recovery, whether it's with an e-commerce checkout or some other longer process, we've seen anywhere from 15 to 30% probably of the people that abandon can be picked up with the right email sequence. So spend a lot of time getting that abandonment recovery email sequence nailed down. There's a lot of value in just fixing 2 or 3 emails.
Oh, Fred,
Frederick,
I think
we can't hear you, Frederick. You're muted.
Technology. Well, I think we can read it. Meanwhile, we can't hear you.
Okay.
Okay, now we can hear you.
Yeah, and I thought you couldn't hear me because they're like literally tearing down my office. So I put myself on mute so the people could actually hear the 2 of you. All right, fun stuff. But I'm going to have to step out here to tell them to stop doing whatever they're doing. But let's see this next question. So converting elements, so supporting media, calls to action, condensed menu, certifications. How much of a role does all this metadata play in CRO? And Andrea, was it you who said like the landing pages of old, 3 bullet points, image, lead gen form, that was it? Like, so it sounds like that's different. And I think a lot of these elements were like the things that we were used to. So how has that changed?
Yeah, well, again, it comes back to how much people know about your brand. If this is the first interaction they are going to have about you, they probably want to know where they can find you. They want to read about reviews and comments people have given you. Are you providing that information? If you are a Microsoft partner, an Oracle partner, is there anything you can provide to give some credibility to your brand? So definitely it helps establishing that trust. As Tim said at the beginning, if people have never heard about you, well, we need to tell you who we are. So in a very condensed but precise manner, hey, this is who we are, this is what we do. And then as they move down the funnel, you can give them other pieces. Not everything has to be in that very first touch, just the most important part.
Yeah, and I want to add that you should think of your landing page as, imagine you're a parachutist who crash lands into a house in the middle of the night. And now you don't know which room you're in, you just need to get oriented. That's how you should think of your website visitors. I mean, if you're assuming that they're going to come through your homepage and all these intermediate pages and get to some action page, that's not necessarily true. If you're direct landing them, say again, on a product detail page, I had this discussion with a customer today. If that's new customers that have never heard of your brand, well, then some of those trust symbols that are on your homepage need to actually be part of the product detail page template so they can have a little orientation and a little bit more trust, because that's their front door. So always remember, your side doors are often your front doors. And if you treat them that way, in the right circumstances, that's another place where landing pages can be effective. You can add that trust in places where you wouldn't need it had they come through the homepage.
Yep.
Right. So use your analytics to figure out which side doors should become your front doors.
Yes, that are also front doors. Exactly.
Yeah. This is a great question from Localworks. But so it's the balance about messaging. So everyday and so messaging as far as speaking to your consumer versus messaging for the Google bot to get your optimization and SEO ranking and quality score high. How do you guys think about that balance?
Andrea, go ahead.
I was thinking why you can't have both. I don't struggle with that. I'm curious to see if Tim disagrees. Because ultimately, most likely that keyword focus that you have because of ranking and quality score, it's also partially why they are searching for you. So if it is the right customer, there has to be a balance between the two.
Well, and I would say, don't think of them as separate things, right? So the way that Google thinks about ranking, it's not about literally what is the content, semantically what is the content. It's about how do people behave when they see this content. And if they behave in the manner that seems like you're helping them research and helping them achieve their goal, like that's really what Google wants. I think they also have different standards when it comes to PPC landing pages and SEO pages, right? So if somebody's looking to do research, that's very different than if somebody's looking to just go and buy something quickly.
Yeah, and I would say that there's kind of a tail wagging the dog situation. Don't ever let technical considerations, whether it's SEO or PPC, control the user experience. I mean, if you look at the evolution of Google in general, it was like keyword stuffing, on-page tricks, and then it was trying to get inbound links and all the link farms. And now the reason they created largely the Chrome browser was to see what people are actually doing on your site and tracking everything through analytics. So this is the golden age when all of the search stuff is aligned with the user experience. So make a good user experience and don't focus on quality score first. Then everything will work out. That's my advice.
I love that. And even Google has evolved on Google Analytics 4, bounce rate is gone. It's now called engaged users. And it's all about what I think Frederick was sending us towards. It's about the experience. Don't focus too heavily
and for
on
example, like time on site could be really good if you're reading or consuming content. It's really bad if you're trying to check out, right? So time on site is either a good metric or a bad metric, depending on the context. It's not some kind of neutral thing.
Exactly. And I stopped the destruction in my office, so I won't have to run that again, I think.
I love the pandemic. Everyone's getting more real.
Hey, wait until my kids run into the room. That's happening in about 15 minutes. So Eric is asking a lot of great questions too. Thanks, Eric. But this is for Tim. So how addictive technologies can be applied to landing page content? So I guess he's talking about the primal brain, and humans basically haven't changed. But by the way, Tim, will humans change?
Not in any kind of short, meaningful time frame, I would say. We've evolved. We have parts of what's inside of us from the earliest forms of life on Earth. I mean, people talk about dopamine, for example, and it's like, oh, that's the 3 blinking dots and anticipating what someone's instant message reply is going to be. Well, we share that with fruit flies. Going back hundreds of millions of years. We share that with an insect. There's nothing distinctly human about this stuff. Yeah, there's some bizarre stuff that we evolved at the end, like culture and storytelling, but you have to look at the whole evolutionary arc to understand people. That's what my main comment on that. So you think there's addictive technologies? Yeah, there's a lot of algorithm-driven stuff that's being used, for example, in social media to polarize us and get reactions and get us to act. You have to be really, really conscious of how you motivate people. There's basically 2 ways to move someone off their comfortable spot. You can use upside motivation, happy talk, which is what most marketers do, and fear and loss-based stuff. And I think to this point, I think you should really focus on loss-based stuff. A lot of companies say, well, that's off-brand for us. We don't say mean things. But if you're not painting the picture of what life is like without your product or service and rubbing salt into the wound and all of the implications of that, you're not going to motivate me. So just like going to work out at the gym, no pain, no gain. If you can't create a pain in the prospect, there is no financial gain for you.
Well said. No pain, no gain. All right. Melissa, she's a fan of good riddance of bounce rate, like Andrea was saying. So let's shift to the next topic. We had promised people we would talk about it a little bit. Would love to hear the stories that you have about the biggest landing page mistakes. And I'm sure you have many.
Tim, do you want to go first?
Well, I have a whole chapter. I have a section called Your Baby is Ugly, and I have the 7 deadly sins of landing pages. And what they all boil down to, I'll flip through a few of them, but they all boil down to this notion that we as the company are going to tell you what's right, instead of taking people from the outside in and saying, let's meet them where they are. So not enough trust, too many distractions, visually too much text on the page. One of the big ones that applies here to PPC in general, and I still see it with shocking irregularity, is not keeping your promises. They didn't just appear on your landing page, they came from your ad. So if the ad promises something, It's like if you're trying to sell vacuum cleaners and you say free sex in your ad, I mean, that's, well, actually, I'm not going to go there. There's probably someone that could figure out how to put those two together, but that's not me. The point is you have to keep your promises. You can't just say, well, I did my job. I drove the traffic here. Now it's up to you to convert them. So if there's not a clear information sent, if the main promise of the ad isn't being kept on the landing page, that's a huge problem. And that's also why I advocate for having dedicated landing pages, because if you just land them on a page in your site, it might be serving multiple masters and it might not be focused enough on the ad promise.
Right. And so that goes to preserving the scent of the query. And then you said the scent, right? So, and in PPC, it generally means like make sure your keyword is shown in the ad text so that promise is kept. And then you're saying keep the promise from whatever you now said on the ad to the landing page. And so one thing that I've heard, I may have heard it from you, but was basically like tell people what to do in the ad and then let them do exactly that thing on the landing page. So like tell them sign up for a free ebook or register for a call or whatever it is, because the ad is almost like giving humans the mission. Like, what is the mission you want me to go on if I click this ad? Oh, cool, I can go like register for this. And then they get
yeah. So it was for a very perfect example with the ebook. So if you get them to a page that's got the ebook, most people will try to sell the free demo, right? All of a sudden, it's like this bait and switch that happens. Mm-hmm. Instead, that whole page should be dedicated to what you get in the ebook, a beautiful cover shot of it, a detailed table of contents. It's 17 pages. Here's what people say about the ebook. So you're really selling the promise that you made. You're going to get an ebook and you land on the page and it's all about how great the ebook is. It's not an attempt to get you to buy today.
Buy.
It does remind me of something that happens on B2B all the time, and it's very annoying. It's when people are looking for the price of something. I just want to know the price, how much it costs. And then you land on the page and it's a contact us form. And it's so painful. It's like, just give me an estimate because I need to know.
I know. And then you fill out the form and then you get on an exploratory call where they still don't give you the price.
Because they need to check with somebody else to give you the price.
Right. And they need to make sure that you're worthy of even being told what the price is and that you might actually have enough money to pay for it.
I'm going to disagree with you guys here.
Please
go for it.
Because again, if you're talking about a B2B high value sale, a high risk, it's like show up on our page. It's only $500,000. Okay. Buy. If you don't establish the value proposition, if you don't tell me that you understand what my problems are, if you don't understand that, if you can't show to me with a calculator or some other thing that my actual cost of not doing this is $5 million, then I have no context for that $500,000 and it's just too much. So I think leading with price on expensive items is not necessarily the best thing to do. I mean, like when I ran my agency SiteTuners, we had our expert website reviews. That's the only thing we had the price for. That was an entry level. We don't care if you do it. We'll give you lots of good advice, but here's how much it costs. None of the other agency services were priced. It's not a menu in a Chinese restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and there are things that are custom, right? Like you said, in a marketing agency, it depends how much you want to spend, how many, whatever the results you're expecting, what are your challenges today. But there are different ways to tackle those.
Yeah. So, and Tim, we want to show the link to your book here in just a second because lots of good advice in there. But I do want to go back to the scent of the query, right? And I've mentioned this before, and I'm going to keep harping on it. But like with this uncertainty that keeps being introduced, like, okay, you had an exact match keyword. And that exact match keyword was buy a dozen red roses. And now Google's like, well, semantically, that's kind of like the same meaning as floral arrangements, whatever, right? Okay, so that's different. Now your ad, which is being put together by RSA, is like, well, we have 12 different headlines, and one of them is going to be like, get your flowers delivered tomorrow. And the next one is going to be like, get it $30 off. Which one do they put together, right? So now I don't know on my landing page what was shown in the ad. I don't even really know what the user was searching for. So in this day and age where we lost so much control, how do we preserve the scent of the query and deliver on the promise?
Well, I think what we're saying is instead of exact match, we now have themes. And when you get back to it, you have to create a theme page. But again, the thing you should do then is create the information sent on the page. So just like we're talking about in B2B with role-based self-selection, you can say, hey, do you want to figure out the best Mother's Day gift, or do you want to buy a dozen red roses that'll be delivered tomorrow for the more specific person? So you can give them 3-4 options, no more than that, but 3-4 options on the page that they can process in parallel. And in a way, you're really kind of reconnecting them with that information sent, and you're getting around the nullification of it, the stripping off the information that's being done upstream of it. So you're recovering the information sent.
I think also, if you are using single keyword ad groups, this might be troublesome to you because you might say, okay, I need to create one landing page per ad group. That's going to be so painful. The reality is, this is how I like to frame it. If all the keywords are related and they can go to the same page, that's going to be your ad group. And if all your keywords are related, then probably the experience, even if Google tweaks them a bit, but you apply the correct negative keywords, you can still have that experience and have themes, as Tim is saying.
And I'm just here in the background trying to create the correct link to Tim's book. I guess you can just go to timash.com and the link to your book.
Well, the book's at primalbrain.com if you mean the new evolutionary psychology book.
I'm looking for the old one that you were holding up.
Oh, well, just go to Amazon and look up landing page optimization. That's the title of it.
Right, or look up Tim Ash and you'll find it easily that way. Yeah. It's just we're trying to generate the link, and then it's like what we're just talking about, like Amazon sticking all of these additional parameters on the back of it, so the link becomes too long that we can't share it. And we're like, what part can we remove? It still get you to the actual landing page that you need. Yeah, sometimes technology gets in the way, right? Like things become too complicated, and we lose customers and opportunities along the way. All right, let's talk about measurement here next. All right, so we've talked about what needs to be on the landing page, how to sort of preserve the scent of the query. How do you measure it all? And we've talked about Google's Optmyzr tool. We've talked about Google Analytics, but like, what is your guys' ideal tech stack to take everything we've learned and put it into practice?
Yeah, Andrea, go ahead.
Sure. So I think the 3 pillars I like to use the most often, that I looked at every day or whatever the time frame might be, it's definitely Google Ads, because I need to know how the ads are performing. B, Google Analytics, to know where are they moving, are they doing anything? And then the marketing automation platform. If you are not looking at what people do after they land, specific people that they have given you information, and you are not putting those pieces together into the puzzle and doing something with that audience, you are really missing out. I am used to looking at it because I am in the B2B side. So people do something and it may take a very long time to do the next thing. So that's why I focus a lot on it. But also, if you are in an e-commerce site that you have a very short sales cycle, what did they buy? Do that get often buy with something else? How do you match those together to determine next steps?
Yeah, and I would say that it's really important to. I'm not so much concerned with the tools, but rather the metrics that you're surfacing. What are you actually looking at on your dashboards, and what's your North Star metric, your essential metrics? And to me, the deeper you can go into the business and into time, the better. I think the problem is on the front end, as we're driving this traffic and seeing the efficiency of the landing page itself, we're too focused on the tactical. You want to get to lifetime value. That's the North Star metric always, as close as you can do to that. So drive it through the business, find out what's happening. In bigger businesses, that means cohort analysis. Like you make a change on the front end, you track that all the way through for a few months or whatever it takes to understand what the real profit impact of that was over the lifetime of the customer. And that's the ideal that you should be shooting for, whatever tools it takes to get you there.
And that's really interesting because when I think about CRO, it's like, okay, you got them on that landing page. Like, how do you get them to have that micro conversion? And Andrea, you mentioned micro conversions, right? But Tim, you're saying, well, these micro conversions are great. They get you to the thing, but you really have to understand what is that lifetime value, that big thing at the end that you're aiming for. And so
it's like in the early days of the internet when you do a page load and you look how many hits I got. Well, a hit is just downloading an asset. So if you had 100 images on your page, you got 100 hits. And people would measure these frontline tactical upstream things and that had no connection to real value, I guess is my point. So the closer you get to real value, the better.
Right, and I suppose, Tim, you go into the C-suite and have these conversations, so you have to focus on that lifetime value. What's the contribution to the business?
Yeah, that's the language they talk about is finances. And so I think if we want a seat at the grown-ups table instead of the kids table off to the side, we got to stop talking about return on ad spend or click-through rates or conversion rates even. We need to start talking money because that's what they talk in the C-suite.
Yeah. Hey, did you just call it the kids table that I play at? I'm so sad.
I did it for many years.
Yeah. Andrea.
So, let me laugh. But something too, though, this is something I learned from you, Fred, actually, that you spoke about at the Paid Search Association conference this year. As we are losing control on a few things and how automation is changing our lives, we need this just to babysit the algorithm. I see that a lot of questions in the chat are about metrics and how to improve them. And something you talk about that day, and please correct me if I'm off or you can compliment, but you talk about using those micro conversions to help nurture the algorithm and give them value in order to tell Google Ads system how to optimize towards that. I'll let you expand if that rings a bell.
Yeah, well, so I mean, I think a lot of organizations, they understand the need to report lifetime value as the thing you get from PPC, but it's challenging to get that number, right? And so really think about how do you approximate what may have been slightly better value or slightly worse value relative to one another. And so a classic example would be you sell stuff and you had two customers and they both bought exactly $100 worth of stuff. In traditional conversion reporting, you will report two sales, $100 each. So now the machine learning system that's in charge of showing the right ad, setting the right bid, it's going to say, well, they were equal, so whether I get more of this one or more of this one, it doesn't matter. However, when you look at the numbers, you might recognize some patterns in your business. You're like, oh, this person falls exactly in the demographic of who tends to buy a lot and become a repeat customer, and this one is sort of an outlier.
Right on.
Exactly. And now, but you don't know how much is that repeat customer worth versus the outlier, but you don't have to know. If you can say to Google, well, listen, that $100 from the good customer, let's call it 110 just for the sake of things. And the other one, we'll still call it 100. Well, now Google knows you slightly prefer the $110 customer, even though they bought $100 worth of stuff. And the machine learning says, well, let me try to find more of those. Right. And so that kind of helps you steer the ship in the right direction. And so
yeah, this could be based on averages. I mean, you should be going to, again, your CFO or whoever and having them do some analysis on this stuff. So if you can find high value clusters, that first sale or that first conversion value should be skewed. What you should be telling the search engines it's worth should be skewed in the direction of lifetime value.
Exactly.
I brought this up because it comes back to what Tim was saying. This is a way to get you started into that lifetime value conversation and how to improve the metrics across the board, to have that conversation of this is what we are bringing to the business. This is what the paid traffic looks like. When paid traffic is involved, the lifetime average value of the customer can increase. So that's how you start getting into that habit of thinking throughout the whole way.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we all agree we'd like to play at the big kids table or the adults table. So
baby steps. You're just going to the big kids table now.
Exactly.
The little kids table.
My 2-year-old is not going to be an adult tomorrow, right? She's going to go. And actually, she did walk into the room. I don't know if anyone noticed.
She was so cute. I heard that the sounds. Yes.
Oh, did you? Damn it, every time. Yeah, she is cute. So Claudia is making a good point here. And I think one that we all struggle with, right? So we're at the kids table. We'd like to be at the adults table, but we face opposition. So how do we talk to the teams that we work with in terms of setting up something more than just TCPA, TROAS bidding, but how do we actually tie into the business system so that we get an inkling of what is that lifetime value and then start using it?
Well, so there's you have to. The short answer is you need an executive sponsor, somebody that flies air cover and interference for you and cares about that. So, for example, we had one client that was defending their branded keywords. So they're spending a lot on pay-per-click on their own brand. I mean, arguably, it doesn't add a lot of value because they also rank high in SEO for those branded terms, right? But Google still wants their taste. So if you're going to talk to the PPC person about that, they'd say, yeah, I'd love to lower my PPC costs because that's just wasted spend. And then you talk to the SEO people and they're like, well, not so much because we want to, get more credit for it. And there's all this turf wars going on. But if you go to the VP of marketing who sits over PPC and SEO and you pitch the idea to them, it makes a lot of sense. So basically get some executive sponsorship at a level where their metrics and their paycheck and their bonuses are incentivized by actually improving the business and what you want to do.
Yeah, people make money.
I was going to say, I think they also sometimes bring that big company experience and where they want to go, not today, but in the future. They are probably the right person to give you that long-term perspective and how to get there.
Yeah. Okay, so final question that I had lined up here, but what is your favorite recent conversion rate boosting technique? And maybe something a little bit newer, right? Like I know, again, humans haven't changed, so how many of our techniques can we change to make them bite? But the web has changed, right? What we're able to do on the web has changed. So what is new and cool that you have done recently?
I'm going to let you go, Tim. Let me think about this one.
I think one of the biggest weaknesses that most companies have is actually, this is not a technological trick, but it's having an editorial voice. I think is a really huge overlooked advantage. Most of us are writing in this marketing happy talking generic stuff. We have the world's best solution for, customer optimization management or something like that. That might even be on your site somewhere, Fred. No, but you don't want language like that. What you want to do is you want to have a very passionate tribe that you want to attract culturally. And that means that you have to have a point of view and have an editorial voice and have an origin myth of why your company exists. So I think the cheapest thing you can do is hire really, really good copywriters and make sure that everything coming out of your company has a distinct voice. And that's going to resonate with somebody, because otherwise we're fire hosing people with ad impressions and they're tuning all of them out. So know your tribe, have a voice. That's my advice.
I love that. And if you can hire a good content guy to do it, then just have a CEO and founder who's like got the voice, right? Which is sort of the Optmyzr play, I suppose.
No, seriously, content copywriters are your most often the highest point of leverage for PPC and websites.
That's true. And Andrea, I'll let you go in a second here, but I do notice that, so when I was at Google, did a lot of writing, obviously had to bring a perspective, and then I have a perspective on many things still, and so it's not just marketing speak, and it does come from the heart. But then you hire a marketing team, and all of a sudden they talk in platitudes and generalities, and it's like let's get specific, right? Like you're saying, and let's. You're very articulate, CEO. Let's just use you as an example. I mean, you created this company for a reason. You were passionate about something. Something wasn't working in the online marketing ecosystem. So you went out and you overcame adversity and you found allies and you slayed the dragon. And now you want to bring this mission of regreening the whole earth in this better Fred way. And that's what Optmyzr is all about. Like, where is that? That should attract the tribe, and don't let your marketing people water it down. Right. And Tim is another good example of, living the mission and really caring about CRO.
And slaying dragons. Go.
Exactly. Andrea, what about your favorite one?
Well, so again, I know I've mentioned this, that I am on the B2B space. Something that bothers me a lot is, that we're always trying to get you to download a white paper or give us something we can track somewhere. So it bothers me big time when I see those pages that they have just one paragraph, 3 bullets, join now. So it goes back to what Tim is saying. We don't know what you know about our brand. We don't know where you might come in for the first time or the second time. And with Google being broader and broader, in terms of match types and how they are matching people with queries, we might not know where you are in the funnel, even if we are using exact match. So things might be shifting, right? Especially if it's a brand new campaign that you are just testing out. So I like to give people the option of choosing where they want to go in the funnel, but I track everything. I will give them a video if they have no idea who am I. That way they know who we are, what we do, how we do it, and how we get you there. If you want something that is very comprehensive, we will give you a report. We will tell you how many pages you have in the report. We will tell you what the glossary of the report looks like and what information you are going to get, but give you different stuff. And we will track everything. We will track if you watch the video, how much of it you're watching, how much you are scrolling through the page. If you started filling the form and then you got into phone number and you said, I am not doing this, and you bounce back, we will track that. And, we optimize towards that. If everybody who is landing is watching the video, then let's switch it up. Let's put the video higher. Let's bring the report down and do movements like that. That's how you ultimately know, in a way, what people are actually doing in those pages and what they actually want to get from you.
Yeah, and I would add one more thing to that, which is that, in terms of tools, your most powerful thing is your email. On the back end, when you do have an email from someone, and assuming you are tracking what they're doing on your site, what state of the customer journey they're in, your marketing automation, having the right email sequences, just like with the abandonment recovery I mentioned earlier, the easiest thing to tweak is emails. It's headlines. It's a few lines of text, but massive returns from tweaking the timing and content of email sequences. That's the secret sauce for a lot of the clients when we had the agency.
Yeah.
And that's a very hard to replicate advantage too, because it can't just be seen on the front end. They can copy your web page. They can't copy your email sequence very easily.
So these are great tips. And I guess the other thing Andrea is saying is you have to have a really strong process around this, right? So you know what checklist you need to go through, but then you also need to do it and measure it and retest it and remeasure it and keep that incremental improvement going.
Yeah. Don't set it and forget it.
No, that's right. Well, these days you can sort of set it and forget it and get mediocre results. AI's gotten pretty good. But we're not watching this because we want to be mediocre, right? So all you watching, do not set it and forget it. Okay, good. Well, hey, this has been a great session. I want to give each of you a minute here to talk about what you're passionate about, how people can get a hold of you, learn more. Andrea, I'll let you go first and we'll put you full screen here.
Oh, God. Well, thank you everyone for joining. As mentioned, I work at KoMarketing, a B2B digital marketing agency. If you have questions about B2B or anything I might have mentioned today, hit me on Twitter at Andrea Cruz 92. I love talking about PPC. I also do SEO. So if you have questions about that, I'm happy to help as well.
Oh my God, she just said a dirty word, SEO. Tim, what about you?
As I mentioned, I used to run SiteTuners, my marketing agency, for 20 years. I've stepped out of that role and I'm focused mostly on keynote speaking, my new LinkedIn learning course on neuromarketing. So if you're signed up for LinkedIn Learning, check that out. And also my new book about evolutionary psychology. It's called Unleash Your Primal Brain. So it's not a neuromarketing book, but whether you're in business or you want this for personal development, if you want to understand what goes on inside your head, pick up a copy of this. It's available as an audiobook from me, as an ebook. So timash.com and primalbrain.com are the two places to find me.
Do you narrate the audiobook?
I do. I narrated it myself. Nice.
Yeah. Wow.
My audiobook, I just found a guy with a better voice.
I think your accent is charming.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, from me, thanks all for watching. We do have the Optmyzr user conference happening. It's going to be later in May, so the link to register is right there. It is primarily targeted at our customers, but anyone's welcome to attend. And we've got a great lineup of speakers who are going to walk you through modern PPC management techniques in a more automated world. So with that conference is coming up. I'm going to take a little break. I'm actually flying to Hawaii tomorrow. Ooh, first time. You know, guys, I'm nervous because I used to fly so much, but now I haven't been on a plane in over a year and a half. And I'm like, do I still know where to go, what to do? It's sort of strange. But then, yeah, we'll be back after the user conference with more PPC Town Halls. So thanks for watching. Subscribe. That's how you find out for the next one. Andrea, Tim, you've been great guests. Thank you so much for being here. And hope to have you back on a future session. And thanks, everyone.
Oh yeah, one more quick thing. If you go to primalbrain.com/sample, you can get the sample chapter of your choice from the book. I'll just send you the PDF. So check it out.
Nice. And no upsell on that one, right?
No upsell on that one.
Just give something, maybe get something in return.
I'm trying to practice what I preach.
There you go. All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.